forward. Okay. May is here. And Shannon's here. Excellent. Okay, and we're recording. So no prep. I just did my instructor training, but I pulled up my notes from last year. So we'll just go through these and see what pops to mind. Now, last year, we did not do separately an orientation week and the first week. We kind of merged the two together. So my notes are a little bit jumbled, and these initial notes are on orientation, and that's what you have done this week. This is Wednesday, so I guess one of you still has a lab to go, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Okay, but you've already done one of them. And
Yep.
Shannon, you've done your 3. Okay. So, the general notes again were to get them excited, showing images and clips, setting expectations with the Mars one, going over the syllabus, setting up software, the observation planner. I can't remember if we talked about this, but if you have time, the observation planner is something you may want to open up and have them put their dates in, and the surveys. That was kind of the goal for this week. And how did that go? How were your orientations?
It went good. Most people, save for maybe like a couple in each class, didn't have their Skynet accounts, but we were able to get those sorted out. Yeah, it went well.
Good. Yeah, the late adders, there's always going to be a few late adders. There are a few people who are going to move from one section to another. There are a few people who didn't sign up in time, but missing the orientation is not the end of the world. They'll be able to catch up quickly. As I get those emails, I say go email your TA. Okay, so next week is Lab 1, Week 1. And so it's not Dylan this time, it's May. So Lab 1, Week 1 takes place, as you all know, at Moorhead Observatory. And so you want to, hopefully you told them that in your sections. And even if you did, you're going to want to email them perhaps multiple times, letting them know that next week and next week only, because they'll show up the week after at Moorhead, it will be at Moorhead Observatory with maps, how to get there. I think we have some pages somewhere for this. Entering the east/arboretum side of the building, going up to the top, etc. We start with a quiz. And so Shannon and Alex, it's on you to put your quizzes together. And you've done this before. I don't need to go in great detail. The idea is 5-ish questions. They should not be too hard, but basically things that if they read or at least skimmed the material, they'll be fine on. And I think the way we did it last year, let me slide down and check. Yep, quiz. So this quiz is just on the Week 1 material, Lab 1, Week 1. And so they will also be doing one for Lab 1, Week 2. I think we may have done it different in the past, but that's what we did last semester, and I think it's a good idea. So as you're letting them know ahead of time, they don't need to read the whole lab, just the Lab 1, Week 1 part. Maybe watch videos in advance. And then it switches over to May. May, do you have the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm just editing it and making some changes.
Yep. Yeah, it's always good to update it. And you haven't been to the Chile site, but you've been to the Australia site, so you probably have some personal stuff that you can show. And that's always good to make it more personal for the students.
Yeah, and Dylan talks about how like he lost part of his finger, but I didn't do that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna not mention that part.
Yeah, you can cut out the cutting off of the finger part, and not our finest moment. And talk about some of the cool stuff you did in Australia. And the standard stuff in there. There's some very, very basic stuff about how cameras work versus eyes and buckets of water with holes in them and things like that. And you can use it or improve upon it. I think there's a fun little warm-up question, like the chili site is south of. That's always a good one. And I'm trying to remember exactly how this goes. We end up doing it says here remote demo prompt 6, put in sample hubs.
Yeah, we do this time it'll be prompt SSO, but that'll be Shannon and Alex, and I'll have the other group up in the dome doing the simulation in Moorhead.
Right. Okay. I was still thinking in terms of the talk. I'm like, we don't do that during the talk. Yeah. So after the talk, we break into 2 groups, right? Where you take one of the groups up to the telescope and make sure it's working in demo mode, right? And you're better suited than anyone here to make that work and test it. I know it's always a little tricky. I don't know. Did we do a really good demo mode solution, or is it still in kludge mode?
Josh walked Dylan and I through it last year, and there's a document. And then I'm gonna go over it with Josh Monday next week.
Okay, great. Because nothing better than at the last minute, right?
Well, Josh will be here in person.
Oh,
So I'm gonna go through it first, and then if I have any like issues, I'm gonna go through it with him in person.
what's bringing Josh in on Monday?
We're fixing the instrument selector.
Okay, nice. Okay, great. And so he'll be there in case there are problems. So remote demo up there, you have the students, and the idea is you pick maybe 1 or 2 targets, and they put the observation in and watch the telescope slew this one and then over to that one. Since in the optical there's linking, they all do the same 2 targets. It will go to one position, crank out one observation that gets dumped to all of them, and then it'll move to the other. It won't just sit on the one and do like 15 exposures before moving to the other. And you can have them, you're good at this stuff. You'll figure out how to make it exciting. The key thing here is for them to see that when they do a telescope is actually moving. It's not some archival system. A lot of people go, to my shock and horror, and there are people who go through the whole lab thinking they were just accessing an archival database. And so that's why this is important. And in the future, you may want to brainstorm about this a little bit. I want the other OPIS sections of the other institutions to be able to do the same thing with Moorhead, where we put Moorhead in demo mode and they can watch it on webcam and do the same thing.
Yeah, with Skynet 2, we'll have the webcam feed on the observatory page, so that'll be easy.
Excellent. Okay. And so while you're doing that, the other group, we're in the croc. There may be some differences in how things are connected. May can walk you through that. You probably want to practice a little bit ahead of time, because it's always, you can't remember this from semester to semester, and there might be changes. Since internet is down at Tololo,
We're doing SSO.
we
can't open the dome, but we can move the telescope around.
Okay. And there's also Mechring as well, but
yeah, but I don't think Mechring has webcams. SSO has webcams, and it's kind of neat because there's 3 telescopes, so they can watch the one move and not the other.
Okay, cool.
But SSO is fine except for the weather, but they can still move the telescopes.
So you want to, of course, be able to have weather monitoring available for Alex and Shannon when they're down there.
I was gonna just say we don't open the dome because I have no weather at all.
Okay.
So it's just dome closed, move the telescope only. That was my.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have no weather at all. Now, if you can grab weather feed from one of the other telescopes there, they should have site weather on some web page somewhere.
Yes, but the wind is a problem.
Okay.
If you open the dome and the wind,
close it.
Then we can't close it. Yeah, and then it's just open.
It is what it is then. The kids always get real kick out of watching the dome open, but we don't have an external webcam in us in Sighting Spring, just the internal. And so watching the domes open is good from the external cam. This will be totally internal. Still, they get a kick of watching the dome open and close. Maybe is there a possibility of like cracking it open and then cracking it closed again?
Maybe. I'll look at what the weather will be that day. Because if there's 40-mile-an-hour wind gust, then cracking it open doesn't matter. It's not going to close again. That's what we learned the hard way when we were leaving.
Don't risk it then. Okay. But moving things around inside the dome, and then you can walk them over to the other office, the undergrad office, and they can look at a telescope up close. It's our famous 50% likely famous telescope that discovered the most distant explosion. I had two of the, so before the prompt telescopes were built, which the mirrors are getting recoded after like 20 years. So the prompt telescopes are suddenly going to become a lot better because 20 years in exposed, they're not even rotating domes, exposed domes. I doubt there's any reflectivity left on these mirrors. And so their capability should increase tremendously. Anyway, and so I had two of these C14s before we bought those, and one of them discovered the most distant explosion, then known, held the record for 3 years. It's the one described in the lab. And I gave one of the two away, and I can't remember which one's which. So there's a 50% chance it's a famous scope and 50% chance it's a cheap scope. And that's something that also entertains them, that this is a $4,000 scope, which is like a piece of junk according to us, but to them it would be like the coolest thing ever. But we also have equipment. I think some of that equipment's in the CROC, the Cox Remote Observing Center, which we're renaming the Gerald Cecil Memorial Remote Observing Center. Even though he's not dead, I'm going to name it Memorial in the hopes that he never comes into my lab again. But anyway, yeah, I think we have a filter wheel there. We have a camera, and I think the camera we have there doesn't actually have a sensor in it. So if you drop it, it's not the end of the world. But you can pretend there's a sensor in it, and or you can pretend there's a sensor in it and then toss it to a student and see what happens. But maybe not. But there's a filter wheel. You can explain how that works, and a camera. Though if you do have time to take them across the way to the physical telescope, sometimes it's easier to explain that stuff in there. Okay, so those are the two stations. And when they come back from both of them, you want to sit them down again and have them put their observations in particular, the moon observation. And fortunately, the moon is now far enough away from the sun that, it's not like a new, so a couple things have cropped up. One was, remember there's this change in Skynet May, accidental, where if it's a new moon, the observation would not go in, where in the past it would go in and wait. We want to make sure that's been fixed. It's not going to affect you this time. We're far enough from new moon that it's okay. But make a note somewhere to ask Reed if that's been fixed. The other thing I noticed, which is going to be a problem, I was just going through practicing here for the educators, and we need to get this fixed right away. Where's my Skynet? Oh, this is the wrong tab, wrong browser. Okay, Skynet is here. Okay, I'm going to add an observation. Oh, and the other thing I'll do if there's a moment is just mention some of the changes to the lab. Optical observation, add an observation. I think it was Jupiter. 1220.5. Remember this, 12 minus 1220.5. That's a lesson you got to tell them because it's not the defaults on the system, but it's explained in the videos in the lab that they use This, where it's not, the sky's not completely dark yet, gives them a shot to get some stuff done before couple things popped in my mind, before the pros start observing. Lower the min target to 20, min visible to 0.5, increases their chance of getting stuff under slightly less ideal conditions. These boxes are new here. The defaults are 130. They're good for everything except the moon. When doing the moon, you have to change it to 0. That's written in the labs. It's not written in the labs because this is new. So
It will at least pop up an error that says that you cannot both ignore the moon and avoid the moon and observe it.
yeah.
In this case.
So that's, lab 1 updates. That's one that I'll need to make. I'm going to send them a bunch of new lab 1 updates. Because they made corrections, but they missed a few small things. And so this, I may do another round real quick. Okay. And so these are good defaults for their types of targets and 0 for the moon, but it'll put up a warning. Okay. What am I doing? Jupiter. I can't remember if Jupiter or Saturn had the problem, but we'll find out. Choose and save filters. It's U-band for Jupiter. I'm just going to pick all telescopes. Well, so what are we going to do here, basically? Which telescopes can they use? Prompt Chile is all down. They can select them, but it's not going to do anything. Prompt MO is up.
Moorhead is fine. And actually, there's been some excitement about and asking if we'll be using Moorhead. So they seem pretty excited about the idea of actually using Moorhead.
Okay. I think RCOP is pretty good. At least it used to be. Let's take a look here.
Yeah, it's just not consistently online right now. It's fine when it is. There's nothing that would affect their observations. There's some issues with their CCD, but it'll be fine for theirs.
So, so we have to decide whether to select only prompt telescopes, in which case it's prompt USASC and prompt MO1. And have the ownership percentages been changed on prompt MO1 yet?
No, not yet, because there was something that was more tricky about, I think it was MO1.
I'm going to do it right now. Because this, we're going to be relying on this tremendously. USASC, Skynet. This is David Sand. These guys never use their time. So let's screen capture this and put it somewhere. Prompt USASC, we'll leave it at that. Skynet, I don't know what the tiny difference is here, but they're going down to 0.1. We're coming up 0.6. They have never used any of their time. So I'm going to steal it temporarily. Okay. I better reset usage too. Okay, so just for the time being, I stole a lot of time on prompt MO, and hopefully that will get us through. On prompt USASC, they have 0.5, we have 0.4. No, so prompt USASC here, I'm going to steal this. Yeah, pull up a Google Doc. Actually, I'll just stick it in here. So we know how to set them back. Save. Reset usage. Though it's, you know, the nights are very short up in Saskatchewan, so it's going to be a limited usage there. Okay, coming back to our selection here. So the lab tells them to select all prompt telescopes. If we can rely on just these 2 telescopes, fine. We do have linking of observations in the optical, so in theory it should work. The other approach they could take is press their link all button. Depends, I have too many time accounts, and it will link more telescopes. Any thoughts? Should we try with the prompt only initially, or should we just go for desperation right away?
I
Prompt
would
plus Moorhead?
say, I would say prompt Moorhead. We could try RCOP. It's just hit or miss whether it'll actually be operating.
Okay.
Like MDRS, we don't want them getting pictures of the dome and not realize that's what they're getting pictures of.
Yeah. Okay. So let's try prompt plus Moorhead plus RCOP. It's like pandemic times again. We're scrounging. We are thinking of installing a satellite link at Tololo because we have no idea how long this will go. We're going to talk about it at our meeting tomorrow and make a decision. Then I'll email Steve Heathcote asking him. He can't tell me how long the outage is going to be, but I can ask him if he thinks it would be a waste of money to purchase and install this system over the next few weeks. And so maybe that's a little way he can give me a hint. If he says it's probably not a bad idea, that means Tololo's not coming back for months. And with the satellite system, we may be able to re-enter operation. Okay, and then
We even had confirmation that our telescopes and our software is actually fine.
I have no idea. Okay, so here's the problem that I encountered. This is 1.03 second exposure, and problem may have been with Saturn. Yeah, this looks totally fine. Yeah, the problem was with Saturn. So let me go back to the target. We have new recommended filters and exposure times. We have Saturn here. Choose filter. I'm just gonna, it's B in the lab. And I'll just go with all those scopes, save and continue. 0.5 second 0.5 second exposure. Now look at the max as I hover over each one. It is less than the duration in every single case. Yet none of these went pink, and we tested this before. It may be something to do with, instead of being tied to prompt 5, we've now tied it to historic prompt 5. And am I on generic? Good, generic, sorry. Same deal. None of these will go through. Save and continue. Exposure lengths are either too long or too short for the selected telescope. So this needs to be, remind me if I forget, May, this needs to be brought up with Vladimir tomorrow in group.
Yeah, it's also saying that it's also recommending it's going to scale to a 3.6 second exposure on Moorhead, which is way too much. 3.8, even worse. Like that's totally unnecessary. That's too much.
Yeah, and so the issue, and this is a problem here. If you're scaling a point source, it scales one way, but if you're scaling an extended source, it should scale a different way. And we're not making that distinction here. And so some of the scaled planets may not work out very well. You may just want to stick with prompt USASC, prompt Meckering. RCOP here. So which ones gave huge, from 0.5 Moorhead was bad. USAS doubles. Prompt 2, prompt 5, prompt 6. RCOP is not great either. So
Yeah, you're right. None of these are actually like usable.
yeah, except for even prompt USASC doubles it. Prompt Meckering keeps it pretty much the same. So this won't go through, in which case they'll have to kind of decrease their duration. But see, it's not even pinking out. It used to pink out if it didn't work. And so this needs to be fixed tomorrow. See, it took it that time. And look, it took it with all the telescopes. Even though a lot of them violated the max duration. So something's not right here. So we'll figure this out tomorrow. But just a warning to you all, if it doesn't get fixed, we may encounter this and we'll have to deal with it. Okay. And so, yeah, after you do your 2 tour stations, put them all back in the main room, have them put their main observations in. Of course, the moon observation takes a little bit of extra. And so May, when you're giving your talk, I think the way this is sometimes done is you give the PowerPoint talk, and then you walk them through what an observation is like. And then you go upstairs and you do the stuff. Then you come back and they put in their observations. But the first thing you do is you may want to say, okay, before you put in your observations, I'm going to walk you through. Well, no, you maybe have them put in their observations and then do a moon observation. They may all go at different speeds as they're putting in their observations. So maybe you want to say, okay, let's do the moon observation because it's a little more complicated. We'll do it all together. Have them put it in, and then have them to go through and put in their planet and moon and dwarf planet observations. And in the
Yeah,
lab,
Dylan
yeah, go ahead.
said he usually just walks them through their first observation, and you just submit one with them, and you walk them all through it at the same time.
Yeah, submit the one, and then submit the moon. Walk them through the moon because it's different. And you may want to watch the video because you got to bounce around a little bit. You got to go up and select your telescope and then come back and then frame it on the first page, if you know what I mean. Where's lab 1 here? The last thing I want to do is point out some of the things that are different. Here's lab 1. And I sent you the documents. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. Did you? I'll pull it up real quick. OPIS, lab 1. Okay, and scroll down to where there are notes. They didn't there are a few things they missed. They didn't update the link to view the telescopes. Not that we can view the Tololo telescopes right now anyway. So that's something I'm going to add. Some extra text here. If an object is not currently observable, but almost observable on the right-hand side of its curve, check back in a week or so because it might be observable then. Conversely, if an object is observable only on the very left-hand side of its curve, observe it quickly because it's going to get too close to the sun. It's one condition. You may miss these just looking at the document on WebAssign. Here you've seen I've switched from V to B. You get greater structure if you observe Jupiter in B than you do in V. And made some modifications to the exposure durations, but clearly there's that problem we just found. This is more expectation setting, saying, hey, your image of Saturn is going to look like this initially until you zoom in, and talking about imaging from Earth versus from space. Changing of some exposure durations and filters. This is for the lunar observations. And here's an example of what Jupiter looks through before you adjust the brightness and contrast, because they may look at that and say it's screwed up. I'm just letting them know it's not. We increased the exposure times for Haumea and Makemake and got rid of Eris. Just a little bit of additional text that when they say, I can't see the Kuiper Belt planet, but that's the point. It's in there somewhere. These, now that I know the sky better, after teaching MWU, I'm going to update these and give them better options, but that's for the future. And
I've also been making my list for where
Good.
they're going to make their color image.
I'm going to add a line for that as well. Here's a document giving you options and recommended exposure times. I might do that stuff today and get it sent off. I don't need your document yet. I'll create a fake link that we can redirect to it. Okay, and then we added this here. This is week 2 stuff. But last semester at the very end, instead of lab 9, we had to make a color image. And that's now been embedded in lab 1, week 2. Optional, if you want to make a color image, here's a video tutorial on how to do it. And once they're done, they can dump their stuff here, which currently goes nowhere. May's going to figure out some kind of free photo bucket site where they can put their images in a description. Just definition, please. This is week 2 stuff, but zooming in all the way until it fills your viewer. Do not take screenshots. Use the camera button so we get that EXIF data in there. Also, they didn't do it as I have here, but you all requested the Skynet observation number. It's now a separate table. After the table where they upload their images, there's a separate table and they type in the observation number so you can go directly to their observation. As a TA, that could be helpful. They fixed a bug here. This is important. We're removing the concept of true in percent error calculations. Pedagogically, it's not a good concept. It's like they're comparing their measurement to the best professional measurement available. But true is, I don't really care. I like the terminology, but a lot of my colleagues were upset by saying something had a true value. We don't know. Just there's the value measured by pros and there's the value measured by them. So you can see I take out the word true everywhere and put in professionally best determined angular diameter. Though in the equation here, they forgot to update the second one. I'll have them fix that. But you'll see a change in that. In many places where they do calculations, it now links to an external. That's not it, but see example calculation. And it, how do I get the hyperlink to? Anyway, it will link to external document that shows sample calculations for. I only have this in labs 1 and 2 updated, but now where they have a calculation, they can click on the link and see an example. In the show their work boxes, I asked them not to copy and paste because it really WebAssign butchers the math characters, so they have to type it separately, and you can see the error keys. Percent error is now your measured value minus professionally best determined value divided by professionally best determined value. something else in here somewhere saying percent errors are positive in astronomy. And here's more, adding their 7-digit code so you can find their observations easily. Some notes about Hami and Makimaki might be hard, 7-digit codes, etc. Anyway, and then a request saying, hey, share your stuff on social media. Just so you're aware of the changes. Anyway, we've gone on half an hour, a little bit longer. I promise to keep these quick, so I'll stop. Any questions? I guess there's the setting up of the lab, right? I think the way we do it, you may remember, we use as many chairs around the lab as possible and then supplement it with the chairs from upstairs and leave the rest upstairs, but hopefully there's enough both downstairs and upstairs for everyone. There probably won't be, and it'd be nice to get another kind of chair stack thing like we have. So if we find that that is a need, that we do need another rolly stackable chair thing, we may want to try it. I did spend some time trying to find the same one that we had last time so it all match, but we couldn't find it and we never ordered anything. So if there's a need after this week, we'll put it on the to-do list. Oh, but setting up and training, croc training, when do you all want me to train you in the croc?
So you want to like train me and Shannon at the same time? Would that be easiest for you?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just a little bit there's just like a certain way. I have a guide that walks you through it, but it's easier to see it, especially because my guide relies on Chile. We don't have that, and it's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I bet Shannon's schedule is more complicated than mine, so
I'm free pretty much whenever. I can do today, tomorrow, Fridays I'm free all day, so.
I can't do today. I could do tomorrow, probably. Yeah, I think I should be free anytime tomorrow. So
My tomorrow kind of sucks, but I'm free after Astro Data at 3:15. If that works.
Same
Yeah.
here.
that works.
Okay. And setting up the lab, tomorrow is Thursday. I'll be in there and we'll have all the undergrads. So maybe when you come over to train them in the croc, I'll work with the undergrads to get the seats arranged and the screen projector ready. So we can do that all kind of at the same time. Okay. Anything else? Have I missed anything?
This could be something I missed. The surveys. I think you said you were going to send us a video motivating the reason for the surveys. I haven't done the surveys yet.
Did I not send you the surveys?
I don't think so.
Ah, crap.
I sent them. That's why I asked you for them.
Okay, great.
I didn't do anything with that though. I haven't sent it to my students yet.
Send it to your student. If you have time in orientation, make them do it then. So far we have not done surveys during orientation, have we, this week? That would have been ideal because you have all this extra time and they're there and you can get them to do it. High response rates are critical. Oh, here's an idea. So we're offering extra credit for the surveys. I recommend we only offer extra credit if they do both
Yeah.
Pre and the post. And it may have
Okay.
mentioned it last time. Okay. So I would emphasize that, but I really want the surveys done before they go to Moorhead, because that could start to get them excited and change their attitudes. So if you didn't do it in lab, send out an email saying, here they are. Please do them before you come to lab next week. Same time as you do your reminder, come to Moorhead, bring your laptop, and say, capture the screenshots at the end of each and send them to me. And if you do these and the post, you will get extra credit.
Can you, but you said you have a video.
The encouragement video. Did I not? Yeah, I have that here. 1 second. Oh, it's in the heck. Okay, it's playing some YouTube video. I'll screen share for a second. Let me see where it's located, but I also put in the chat. So under the OPIS videos, the orientation playlist, request for surveys, and I'll put that in the chat. There's actually a shorter link. And there's another plea for surveys, for the post surveys that Rachel Freed, my postdoc, does, but there's mine. And so I'd send it out with the links.
Yeah.
And I have some sample text. Where is that sample text? Here we go. This is text that you can. This is the post. Oh, the text is post. Yeah. Okay. I'll send that around the end of the semester. Just it's like a script to try to get them to do it. Okay. There may be a pre. Let me just check one last thing. WebAssign sign up. It's coming to a close. Okay. Yeah. I guess I don't have text for the pre. Anyway.
That's okay.
Okay. Anything else? All right. I'll let y'all go. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.